Throughout my time in GTA Online, I've come to experience a wide range of playstyles and corresponding players behind those playstyles in the world of GTA Online, and some of them are amazing and inspiring, while others are tedious and downright enraging. And while GTA Online doesn't have nearly the same amount of popularity as it did during its peak, there's still a sizable amount of people playing this nearly 12-year-old game. And that's because Rockstar keeps adding new stuff to it every single year. And even though the updates aren't as frequent or game-changing as they used to be, they're still pretty solid. And in today's video, I'm going to break down the 10 types of players who still play GTA Online to this day. I know there are a lot more specimens roaming out there in the wilderness of this game's servers, but I chose to limit this to my personal top 10 based on how prolific these archetypes are, as well as how frequently I run into them in my public lobbies. Maybe one of these describes your playstyle, or maybe you fall into multiple categories, but keep watching until the end to find that out. Alright, let's kick things off with a type of player that's extremely common in the world of GTA Online, and I'm of course talking about the Normie. This is the laid-back, relaxed player who mentions the word fun whenever you ask him why he isn't more efficient with his grind. He also doesn't really care about the weekly bonuses and hasn't read a single news wire in over 5 years, because reading the news is clearly for sweats, and the Normie doesn't like to sweat at this game. Using his acutely tuned powers of leisure maxing, the Normie drives around the streets of Los Santos looking for casual yet fun tasks that nobody else wants to do. He refuses to participate in PvP battles unless absolutely forced to do so by a griefer, and also barely has enough money in his bank account to buy a new car every other week. But that's fine, because the Normie isn't chasing wealth or luxury. He just wants to log in and goof around with his friends. He'll do stunt jumps, time trials, OG heists, G's caches, and is also a big fan of racing. Occasionally, he'll drive around in his ramp buggy, launching other players into the sky before he gets blown up by some tryhard with an oppressor Mark II, and then will quit into a different lobby so he can gamble at the casino. The Normie, also known by some as the casual, is aware of the fact that he could be doing a lot better, but that would mean investing more time and effort into the game, and that's not something he can afford or is really interested in doing, because unlike the sweat lord or the griefer, the Normie has an actual job and IRL responsibilities, so he uses the little free time that he has to goof around and have fun. Besides, if he really wants something, the Normie is more than capable of buying a few shark cards, using all the time he spends on real life work to speed up his progression in GTA Online. Next, we need to talk about the Youngling. Some of you might know this type of player by their other name, the newbie or the noob. See, Younglings are usually under level 30 in this game, and you can immediately recognize them from a distance simply by their weirdly mismatched outfits, as well as lack of any real weapons, armor, or cars. And they often spawn around San Vita Street, Vespucci Boulevard, or even South Rockford Drive, because that's where you find the cheapest low-end apartments. Younglings drive around in the same default car they got after beating Lamar in the tutorial race, and they also don't have top-tier weapons like the heavy sniper, the combat MG, or special carbine. Instead, you'll find them holding up convenient stores with their crappy default pistol, and they'll be running around the map like a madman, stealing NPC vehicles, looking like an absolute idiot as they constantly crash into things. At first glance, the Youngling may seem like a Normie, but in reality, the two couldn't be further apart. While the Normie is conscious of best practices and efficient ways to make money in the game, the Youngling is entirely clueless. These guys also tend to be a little too trigger happy for some reason, maybe because they think GTA is some kind of PvP sandbox deathmatch type of deal, and when they inevitably get wrecked by high-level players from orbit, they cry foul and quit, only to repeat the same thing in a different server. But while it may be fun to dump on the newbies, we shouldn't be too harsh on them, as we were all newbies at one point or another. Once a Youngling finds his way, he may turn into a much more powerful player. Like for example, the High Roller. These guys are the billionaires of GTA Online, and they're usually level 1000 or higher. You might confuse them with the Grinder, but while grinders are in it for the grind, these high rollers love nothing more than showing off their money. They'll gamble away millions of dollars at the casino on blackjack or poker, and they'll spend tens of millions on frivolous purchases like clothes, penthouses, and wallpaper customizations. These playboys never go anywhere without their fully pimped out Galaxy super yacht, and when they're on the road, they'll settle for nothing less than an Us deity or even a weaponized Ignis. In the skies, you'll often find these pompous jackasses sipping on champagne in their Luxor Deluxe, right before they're shot down by an even bigger douchebag in a Raiju. And number 3, we've got the Venerable Grinder, and this is a category that I find myself in a lot of the time. As a grinder, I've got all the money I possibly could need, and I've unlocked everything there is to unlock in the game. I own all the businesses and properties, pretty much every single one of the good cars, and a bunch of cool aircraft, but I still find myself logging in every single day to do missions, heists, maybe even a race or FIB file to switch things up. And one of the things that make the grinder tick is their desire to constantly become more efficient at money making and come up with new strategies, because at their core, the grinder is a min-maxer. Every single grinder starts out as a penniless fledgling in GTA Online, just like every other broke newbie out there, before lifting himself up to the pinnacle of progression in GTA Online through sheer perseverance and learning. And this desire to keep earning money never ends, because for the grinder, it isn't the destination that matters, but the journey that gets him there. While the high roller might use use glitches and shark cards to boost his way through the progression ladder, a true grinder will never resort to such dirty tactics because to a grinder, the art of money making is a sacred craft that must be mastered through sheer skill alone. These are guys who will keep resetting the Cayo Perico weapons prep mission until they get the gang hideout option, because tailing the Merryweather chopper takes too much time. They'll also use a helicopter to land on top of the gang office instead of going in head on, because they want to stealthily steal the unmarked weapons in the least amount of time possible, without alerting a single guard. When a grinder does an ammunition weapons delivery, he doesn't just drive the dune loader to the destination. Instead, he spawns in his personal cargo bob and hooks up the dune loader so he can fly to the ammunition store and cut down a little bit on mission time. In fact, the grinder spends most of his time flying around, usually in an Oppressor Mark II or a Sparrow, not really because he wants to troll people with homing missiles, but because the Oppressor Mark II, for example, is the fastest way to get around the map and one of the most useful grinding tools in the game. And whenever possible, this player will go into an invite-only lobby to make sure their cell missions are as predictable as possible. Or they'll try to find a non-toxic public lobby to get that 50% money on the sale for the high demand bonus, because we all know how bad some of the griefers can get once they see a delivery vehicle of any kind on their map. So best to keep things low-key. And all things considered, the grinder is one of the better types of players out there. They usually tend to stay out of your way unless you give them a reason not to, and they are also fairly predictable in their actions. Now on the other end of the spectrum from the grinder, you've got the Sweat Lord. And while the grinder focuses all his energy on becoming really good at PvE content and memorizing building layouts and NPC spawns to complete heists in the most efficient way possible, the Sweat Lord keeps daydreaming about becoming an MLG pro, even though GTA Online doesn't really have a proper ranked ladder. Sweat Lords tend to come in two varieties. First, you've got the common thug with no regard for basic decency or logic. This is the type of player who will camp in an alleyway to blow you up with an RPG while you're just out and about minding your own business, and immediately quit the lobby after informing you that he's 1-0 on you. And where his lackluster skills can't get the job done, the coward will resort to bullying tactics by using every single conceivable mechanical glitch and gear advantage to kill people like it's some kind of deathmatch. And when you ask him why he's taking things so serious, the guy reminds you that you're in a public lobby and have therefore automatically signed an agreement to get your vehicle blown up any single time you show up on the map. Now, while this particular type of Sweat Lord can be extremely annoying, it's also very easy to get rid of him. Just fight back. Assuming you're halfway decent, you should have no trouble killing him a couple times, after which he'll probably get bored and quit the lobby to continue his man-child activities somewhere else. The next type of Sweat Lord, however, isn't really that easy to beat, because this one is actually good at the game and understands how to exploit every single aspect of the gunplay. Movement, reaction times, aiming, they've got it all down to a T, and they will punish you for making the slightest mistake. Fortunately, these Sweat Lords don't go around blowing up random people just because they can. Instead, they'll politely invite you to a 1v1 deathmatch or some other type of challenge if they wish to test their skills against you. It's been an eternity since this person has seen any sunlight, causing a severe vitamin D deficiency, and his butt has bonded with his gaming chair on a subatomic level from all these years of analyzing fights in slow-mo. In fact, he spent so long trying to get good at GTA Online that if he put the same amount of effort and dedication into an actual competitive game, something like CSGO, Valorant, maybe even Call of Duty, if you think that's competitive or not, he might actually have made it as a pro. But for some reason, this guy picked GTA Online as his obsession, even though it has no skill-based matchmaking and uses peer-to-peer networking with netcode that's buggier than Cyberpunk on launch day. Should you come across a Sweat Lord in one of your lobbies, you'll immediately know if it's the first type or the second, because if it's the casual bully, they're gonna boast about their KD and zoom around an oppressor while calling you a noob every time you die, until you kill them back, at which point they'll shut up and leave. But if it's the second type of tryhard, be very careful, because you're dealing with a special type of basement dweller, one that actually has the skills to back up their claims. And number 6, we've got the Car Enthusiast, aka the Gearhead. These players don't care about gunfights, heists, PvP, or any of that stuff outside of the money-making potential, and that's because they spend all of their time revving their engines at the Los Santos car meet, showing off their highly customized rides that they've pimped out at their personal auto shop. Car enthusiasts are really into the whole Fast and Furious vibe, and they're always itching for a race to test their new ECU and turbo upgrades. They're also the guys who'll spend hours picking spoilers, rims, liveries, and paint jobs for their diverse range of supercars, muscle cars, and track machines. In fact, they can probably tell you the real-life cars that every single GTA vehicle is based on, including the specific subtype, model year, as well as engine specifications. And they've spent hundreds of hours setting new lap records at every single track in the game, so don't even think about challenging them to a race unless you want to lose money. Now, moving on from the chill and fun-loving car guy, we've got a not-so-chill player type who I like to call the glitcher. These players can both be found on console and PC, although their powers are most effective in the PC realm. Kind of like demons who become stronger when you fight them in the underworld, glitchers can range from harmless to straight-up malevolent, and they can ruin your day like no one else. The harmless guys will run around spawning goofy vehicles into the map or dropping money for low-level players, but the malevolent ones will use their mod menus to lock you inside cages or blow up your vehicle whenever they please. You could basically even call the glitcher a modder, and sometimes you'll get a particularly deadly type of modder that's basically a wannabe script kiddie who targets your publicly available IP with a DDoS attack that will not only drop you from the lobby, but also knock out your entire internet for a short while. Now, because of these modders, playing GTA Online on PC can be a very frustrating experience because you never know who's using an aimbot or God mode until they kill you 5 times in a row or they falsely report your account to Rockstar. Sometimes, players are forced to install a mod menu just so they can protect themselves from other modders in the game. And the worst part here is that the bans don't really work because these modders will simply return with a new account in a matter of minutes and boost it back up to level 8,000 with $10 trillion in their bank account. Now, unlike the glitcher or the modder, my number 8 entry, the troll, is merely a nuisance rather than a game-breaking menace. And I get it, sometimes it can be quite fun to troll people yourself with an RC Bandito or a terabyte drone, and professional trolls are always coming up with new and creative ways to make the life of you in the game just a little bit harder. Whether that's knocking you over with an RC tank, or stealing your ride, or blocking you behind a door, these trolls are always thinking of new and exciting ways to annoy you. I bet you've fallen for the car horn trick at least once, where some guy drives up next to you, honks his horn until you try to hop in, and just when you open the door, he drives off, knocking you on your butt. There's also the very specific flavor of troll that I call the follower. This is a guy who flies an Oppressor Mark II and follows you around the map whenever you're making a delivery or doing a heist prep mission. He won't shoot at you, but he's gonna keep you on edge, watching your back the entire time until you finally reach your destination. Some of them are out there to protect you, others, maybe not. So be careful. The griefer is a more extreme version of the troll, and this guy crosses the line from harmless fun to game ruiner without any hesitation. These sorts of people are usually compensating for lack of attention IRL and take out their frustrations on people who are just trying to mind their own business. Whether you try and make an ammunition drop off or acid lab sale, you can bet money on the fact that the griefer will be flying to your location on his Deluxo or Oppressor Mark II like a shark who senses blood in the water. And since Rockstar incentivizes blowing up people's deliveries for cash and RP, whenever you tell him to calm down, he'll hit you with that classic, "It's just part of the game, get good" line. Griefers usually don't use hacks as they're quite lazy and tend to underestimate their victims, so if you see a griefer, greet him with a few explosive rounds from your Heavy Sniper Mark II, or pull out your railgun, or up an atomizer. The railgun is one of the best anti-griefer weapons in the game, and once you counter-grief this type of player, they tend to wise up real quick and stop whatever it is they're doing. Now, last but not least, at number 10, we've got the legendary role player. These guys were really popular a couple years ago, and while the role-playing scene has lost some of its more casual player base, the hardcore RP fans are definitely still out there, playing regularly and coming up with new scenarios in their private Discord servers. There are even dedicated roleplay services like Grand RP or even 5M that run a separate mod layer on top of the base GTA Online code and have their own rule sets, properties, vehicles, jobs, assets. The servers are whitelisted, but you could just as easily roleplay in the vanilla version of GTA 5 without needing any of these fancy mods if you want. You could see it all the time with people running around their police vehicles, trying to pull you over for going 5 miles over the imaginary speed limit that they made up on the spot. Or guys who roleplay as counter-griefers, running security for your cell missions to protect you against griefers. There's even virtual motorcycle clubs in GTA Online that are based on the MC Business system, with dozens of members distributed across various ranks. To roleplay in GTA Online, all you need is a crew, some imagination, and a means of communication. Most of these people use Instagram or Twitter, and that's it. You can create your own stories and adventures, using the world of GTA 5 Online as a sandbox to realize your very own ideas. And there you have it, the top 10 types of players who still play GTA Online. I know, of course, this isn't a comprehensive list, but these are some of my personal picks based on the player types I run into most often. So let me know down in the comments if you come across any unique or interesting player types during your time in GTA Online. With all that said, we're gonna wrap things up right here. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Make sure to drop a like if you guys enjoyed today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I will bring you more GTA Online content just like this in the future. Also, feel free to check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. My social medias can be found in the link down in the description below, and you can check me out at HazardousHDTV on all of my socials. Until then, thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys in the next GTA video. Adios, amigos.